Picture this: Seoul, South Korea, Gangnam District, those gleaming glass towers that pierce the sky at dawn. Inside one of them, a woman named Han Ji-woo sits at her desk at 5:47 a.m., 3 minutes earlier than usual. Her hands are steady as she arranges architectural blueprints with precision. But here's what you need to know. Ji-woo isn't an architect, not officially. She's an assistant, and today is the day 3 years of meticulous planning finally comes to life. See, Ji-woo has a secret. While everyone at Hansong Architecture thinks she's just director Kang Tae-jun's overworked, underpaid assistant, she's actually been constructing something impressive behind the scenes. She's been designing his complete and total destruction, brick by brick, file by file, and the foundation already cracked. This isn't a story about a weak woman who finally snapped. This is a story about an intelligent woman who's been strategically planning revenge from day one. Before we dive into how Ji-woo orchestrated the perfect takedown, hit the like button and subscribe. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this unfolds. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Have you worked in a toxic place? Or have you ever had a boss who underestimated you? You're not alone. Now, let's get back to Ji-woo's story. But before we get to the beautiful chaos she's about to unleash, you need to understand something crucial about Han Ji-woo. She's not the usual protagonist in these stories. She didn't wait 3 years hoping things would get better. She didn't endure out of weakness. She endured because she was building a case. This is a story about what happens when someone underestimates the wrong person for too long. And director Kang? He underestimated Ji-woo in every way possible. 3 years and 2 months earlier, Ji-woo walked into Hansong Architecture as a completely different person. 25 years old, fresh out of Seoul National University with a degree in architecture, top of her class. She had 15 job offers spread across her tiny apartment like trophies. But Hansong Architecture, that was the dream, the biggest firm in Korea, prestigious and powerful. It was a place that could launch a career to its highest. Director Kang Tae-jun interviewed her personally. Mid-40s, expensive suit, had a smile that successful Korean men wear when they know they hold all the power. He told her the position was temporary, just a few months as his executive assistant to learn the business side before moving to the architectural department. He said it was an opportunity, a mentorship. Ji-woo, bright-eyed and naive, accepted immediately. Here's what she didn't know. Director Kang had no intention of ever promoting her. Why would he? He'd found something better than an architect. He'd found someone brilliant enough to do his work for him and naive enough to accept scraps while he took all the credit. It was perfect for him. The first 6 months were subtle. Ji-woo would ask about the transfer to the architecture department, and Kang would smile and say, "Soon, Ji-woo-see, very soon. Just need to make sure you're ready." Meanwhile, she'd stay late redesigning his proposals, fixing his mistakes, turning his half-formed ideas into actual viable projects. He'd present them in meetings like they were his genius, while she stood in the corner serving tea to the executives. Here's the thing about the corporate culture, particularly in Hansong Architectural firm, there's an unspoken hierarchy. Young people endure. They show loyalty through suffering, never complaining, never pushing back. They bow to seniors, even when those seniors treat them like dirt. Ji-woo played this role perfectly. She was the perfect subordinate, and Director Kang, he mistook her patience for weakness. But something was happening beneath Ji-woo's calm surface. While she smiled and bowed and worked 18-hour days without complaint, she was learning, observing, documenting. Every time Kang took credit for her work, she made a note. Every time he plagiarized someone else's designs, she saved the evidence. Every password he carelessly shared, every confidential file he left open on his screen, every weakness in his carefully constructed image, she collected it all. For 2.5 years, Ji-woo built a case. She had assembled a devastating portfolio of evidence, hoping that someday she might need ammunition. And then came the day that changed everything. It started like any other day. Ji-woo arrived at 6 a.m., made coffee, reviewed the Kim Group presentation she'd spent 72 hours perfecting, a complete redesign of their commercial complex using innovative structural techniques she'd developed based on her graduate research. It was brilliant work. This kind of work should win an award, she thought to herself. At 9 a.m., Director Kang strolled in, 2 hours late, reeking of soju from the night before. He didn't greet her, just barked, "Coffee, now." The Kim Group meeting was at 10 a.m. Ji-woo watched from her assigned corner as Kang presented her entire design as his creation. The executives were impressed. One of them, a senior VP, asked him directly, "Director Kang, this structural innovation is remarkable. How did you conceive this approach?" And Kang, without even a flicker of shame, smiled and said, "Years of experience, intuition. You can't teach this kind of vision." But that still wasn't the breaking point. The breaking point came at 6 p.m. that same day. Everyone else had left. Ji-woo was still at her desk, as always, because Kang never let her leave before he did, and he was still in his office doing God knows what. Probably online shopping. He certainly wasn't working. At 6:47 p.m., he emerged, putting on his coat, and he said so casually it was almost absurd, "Ji-woo-see, I need the Busan project files reformatted by tomorrow morning, and book me a table at Mingle's for 8, the usual." Ji-woo looked up from her computer. Tomorrow was Saturday. 3 months earlier, she'd requested this specific Saturday off. It was the first vacation day she'd requested in 3 years. She needed it because it was her mother's 60th birthday. And in Korean culture, your 60th birthday is a massive celebration. Her entire family was gathering in Busan. She'd bought a train ticket. Her mother had been talking about it for months. And Ji-woo had submitted the request 90 days in advance, exactly as the company policy required. She started to say, "Director Kang, tomorrow is Saturday, I had requested," but Kang cut her off, not even looking at her, just waving his hand dismissively. Requested what? Ji-woo's throat tightened. She could have insisted. "Nothing, Director Kang," she said quietly. "I'll have it ready." Kang smiled. "Good, that's why you're still here, Ji-woo-see. You're reliable, not like these architects who think they're artists." He laughed at his own joke. "Maybe in few months we'll see about that promotion." Then he left, whistling. Ji-woo sat alone in that empty office. The Seoul city lights glowed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, millions of people going about their lives while she sat on her chair. She looked at her phone, 7 missed calls from her mother, a text from her sister. "Mom's so excited you're finally coming. Don't be late tomorrow." And something inside Ji-woo shattered. It was time to execute her plan. But before we get to the execution, Director Kang had done something earlier in the month that really infuriated Ji-woo, and this last incident, which was canceling her leave, was the final nail to the coffin. She'd been planning methodically for 3 years, and these 2 incidents in the same month made her decide, enough. Waiting, time to strike. The first incident was the client dinner. Director Kang had secured a meeting with the CEO of Daehan Construction, massive potential client. The dinner was at an exclusive restaurant in Cheongdam-dong, private room, high-stakes business entertainment. Kang told Ji-woo to be present. The Daehan CEO was in his late 60s, wealthy, powerful. The dinner started with business talk, then soju, then the Daehan CEO's eyes started sliding towards Ji-woo like she was part of the amenities. "Director Kang," he said, words slurring, "you know how to treat a business partner right. Good food, good drink, and beautiful company." And Kang, that piece of trash, he laughed. "Mr. Choi, you're too kind. Ji-woo-see is very dedicated to client satisfaction." Ji-woo said, "Pour Mr. Choi another drink." Ji-woo's face remained perfectly calm as she moved closer, poured the drink. The Daehan CEO's hand accidentally brushed her thigh. "Very attentive," the old man said, his hand lingering. "Director Kang, you run a very hospitable operation." She smiled, bowed, stayed professional. She remained calm. The dinner lasted 3 more excruciating hours. The Behan CEO got drunker, bolder, his comments more explicit, his touches more frequent, and Director Kang, he encouraged it, laughed along, kept refilling drinks and making suggestive comments about how accommodating his staff was. At one point, the CEO suggested that Ji-woo should join them for drinks at a secondary location, a room salon. "I think Mr. Choi has had enough excitement for one evening," Kang said smoothly, not protecting Ji-woo, just protecting his asset. "But perhaps next time we can arrange something more private." Next time, he was already planning to pimp her out again. Now back to the second incident. After texting her sister, she opened her laptop. She pulled up a folder she'd been maintaining for 3 years, looked over it. There was one technical problem. Ji-woo needed to access Kang's personal email and cloud storage to get certain files. She was excellent with architecture software, but hacking? That required different skills. She called her former roommate from SNU, Choi Yana, an independent cybersecurity specialist who ran her own consulting business. "I need access to someone's email and cloud storage," Ji-woo said simply. "Can you do it?" "Whose?" "My boss." Yena didn't ask questions, just said, "Send me his details. I'll have access by tomorrow." By the next evening, Ji-woo had complete access to Kang's digital life, every email, every file, every transaction. The man used Seoul 2022X as his password for everything. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so useful. Ji-woo spent that night designing the perfect execution plan. She had all the evidence she needed. She had access to Kang's systems. She had identified his biggest vulnerability, the Incheon Tower plagiarism. Now she just needed to orchestrate the reveal. Make it public, make it undeniable, make it catastrophic. She worked until 4 a.m. building the timeline, the triggers, the sequence of events that would lead to Director Kang's total destruction. She contacted Yana one more time. "I need you to set up monitoring on all his accounts, every email, every file transfer, everything. And I need you to create a shadow archive that I can release when ready." "When?" 3 weeks, the day after the Incheon Tower preliminary presentation. "Consider it done." That was it. Ji-woo's plan was elegant. Phase 1. Let small errors creep into Kang's current projects. Make him look sloppy. Phase 2. Let the Incheon Tower preliminary presentation succeed. Let him feel invincible. Phase 3. During the technical review process, ensure the government committee discovers the seismic calculation flaws. Phase 4. Release the plagiarism evidence at the exact moment when Kang is most vulnerable. Over the next 3 weeks, Ji-woo was flawless. She arrived early, stayed late, smiled, bowed, served coffee, played the perfect subordinate. And she systematically sabotaged Director Kang's empire. She introduced tiny errors into Kang's current projects, a decimal point in a structural calculation, a few millimeters in a blueprint dimension. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to make engineers question Kang's competence. "Director, the load-bearing calculations from last week don't match this week's files." Kang would go red. "That's impossible. Ji-woo, do you—" "I'll look into it immediately, Director. Perhaps a software issue." Software issue. The perfect excuse. Kang, who barely understood the technical side, accepted it every time. Ji-woo would then stay late to fix the problems. In reality, she was planting deeper flaws in the Incheon Tower files specifically. But then, an unexpected complication emerged. Chansong hired a new senior IT security specialist, Park Min-ho. His job was to audit all systems and conduct security reviews, which meant someone competent was about to examine Ji-woo's digital footprint. Min-ho was professional, thorough, with kind eyes. He introduced himself to every department. "You're Ji Woo, right? Director Kong's assistant. I'll need to audit your computer as part of the security review." "Of course," Ji Woo said calmly. Inside, she was calculating. Yana had routed everything through encrypted VPNs and proxies. Her computer should look clean. But Min Ho seemed competent. This could be a problem. The audit came 3 days later. Min Ho worked quietly, running diagnostics. Then he frowned. "Your access permissions are extensive. Administrative access to project files, client databases, financial systems. That's unusual for an assistant." Ji Woo had prepared for this. "Director Kong gave me elevated access about a year ago. He has me coordinate across multiple departments, more efficient than constantly requesting permission." Technically true. Kong had been lazy about access controls. Min Ho nodded. "Makes sense. I'll document it." Ji Woo had passed the first test. Over the following weeks, Ji Woo became aware of Min Ho. He was competent, diligent, and cared about doing his job well. They started having brief conversations. He mentioned he was a widower with a 4-year-old son, that he'd left his previous job because after his wife died, he needed a fresh start away from sympathetic stares. What Ji Woo didn't know was that Min Ho was starting to notice irregularities. Nothing obvious, just patterns that didn't make sense to his trained eye. Files accessed at odd hours, access logs that seemed unusual. He couldn't prove anything, but his instincts were telling him something was happening. 2 weeks before the Incheon Tower presentation, Min Ho made a discovery. Traces of external access to company servers, someone outside the network copying files, sophisticated, professional. He spent 2 days tracing it, and every access point correlated with times when one person was alone in the office late at night. Ji Woo. Min Ho sat in his office, staring at the evidence, feeling conflicted. He should report this. It was his job. But he'd also been reviewing Director Kong's files as part of his audit, and what he'd found was disturbing. Plagiarized work, stolen designs, years of fraud. Was Ji Woo exposing this? Min Ho made a decision. He'd confront her directly. He found her working late one evening. "Ji Woo, my office, now." His voice was hard. Ji Woo knew immediately that he'd found something. In his office, door closed, Min Ho laid it out. "I found external access logs. Someone outside the network has been copying company files, very sophisticated, and the access points all trace back to when you were alone in the building." Ji Woo's face remained calm. "I've also been auditing Director Kong's files," Min Ho continued. "Plagiarized proposals, stolen designs, years of fraud. So I'm asking you once, what are you doing?" Ji Woo looked at him directly. "I can't tell you." "Can't or won't?" "Both." She kept her voice steady. "You're right about Kong's files. He's a fraud. He's been stealing people's work for years, including mine, and I'm handling it. That's all I can say. There are legitimate ways to expose fraud. HR, legal channels." "Legal channels protect people like Kong," Ji Woo said flatly. "You know that, so I'm handling it differently." Min Ho paced. "You're asking me to compromise my ethics." "I'm not asking you for anything," Ji Woo said quietly. "You found what you found. Make your own decision." She turned to leave. "Wait," Min Ho's voice stopped her. "I'm not reporting you, not yet, but I'm warning you, don't interfere with my work, don't compromise actual security, and if this affects my ability to provide for my son, I'll be careful." "Stay out of my way," Min Ho said coldly. No more friendly conversations. Min Ho was professionally cold when they interacted. Ji Woo told herself it didn't matter. She didn't need friends. She needed to finish what she'd started. The plan continued. 1 week before the Incheon Tower preliminary presentation, Ji Woo hit an unexpected problem. A government official requested additional documentation, specific files that Yana had been manipulating. If submitted in their current state, it would be obvious something was wrong. Ji-woo needed clean backup copies, but accessing the backup servers remotely would trigger Min-ho's security alerts. It required someone with inside IT access. For the first time in 3 years of planning, Ji-woo's perfect revenge was threatened by a technical limitation. She stared at her phone for 30 minutes before making the call she didn't want to make. "Min-ho," she said when he answered, "I need your help." "No, I told you I wouldn't get involved. I'm in a situation where everything falls apart if I can't fix this in 12 hours. I need someone with your access level. Call your outside accomplice. She can't access internal backup servers without triggering my alerts. It has to be someone inside." Long silence. "What exactly do you need?" Min-ho asked, his voice resigned. Ji-woo explained the technical problem. "If I do this, this is the last time, you understand. After this, we're done. Don't ask me for anything again." "I understand. You're not my ally." "Thank you," Ji-woo said quietly. The next morning, the files were restored. Clean. Perfect. Min-ho didn't speak to her, didn't make eye contact. All that didn't matter. Ji-woo had gotten what she needed. The Incheon Tower preliminary presentation arrived. Ji-woo had spent days ensuring this presentation would be flawless. Every file correct, every calculation accurate, every rendering perfect. Because she needed Kong to succeed, she needed him to feel invincible before fall. The presentation was in Chansong's main conference room. Government officials, city planners, executives all in attendance. Director Kong stood at the front, confident, presenting work Ji-woo had actually created as his own vision. "Our design maximizes functionality and aesthetic appeal. The structural integrity has been verified by our top engineers." The officials were impressed. At the end, the lead official shook Kang's hand. "Director Kang, this is exceptional. If the technical review confirms these specifications, Hansong will be awarded this contract." Kang was beaming. That night, the company celebrated. Expensive restaurant, expensive champagne flowing. Kang was the hero. "I told you I could land this. 850 million. This is the biggest contract in company history." The CEO raised his glass. "Director Kang, you've outdone yourself. When this is finalized, we're looking at senior vice president for you." Ji-woo sat at the far end of the table, quietly observing, watching Kang celebrate. 7 days, that's all he had left. But then, something unexpected. The next morning, Ji-woo discovered that Lee Se-yeon, CEO of Gina Architecture, the most prestigious firm in Korea, had come to visit Hansong. Through the conference room glass, Ji-woo watched Kang meeting with him, caught fragments about partnership opportunities and combined resources. Gina was considering partnering with Hansong based on the Incheon Tower proposal. This was a problem. If Gina partnered before the truth came out, innocent people would be damaged. Ji-woo spent that afternoon crafting a careful anonymous email to Lee Se-yeon. "Before entering any partnership with Hansong Architecture, recommend thorough due diligence on Director Kang Tae-jun's Incheon Tower proposal. Compare structural calculations to 2023 rejected proposal by Daewha Architecture. Seismic specifications may not meet coastal requirements. And concerned architect." Specific enough to make Lee Se-yeon investigate. She sent it through Yana's encrypted systems. 2 days later, Lee Se-yeon requested a detailed technical meeting with Kang, private, to review the proposal in depth. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Ji-woo couldn't hear it, but she watched through the glass. Lee Se-yeon asking increasingly pointed questions, Kang growing uncomfortable. Then Lee asking for complete documentation, original design files, the full paper trail. Kang's face went pale. After Lee left, Kang stormed to Jiwoo's desk. "Get me every file on the Incheon Tower project, every version, everything, now." "Yes, Director." Jiwoo compiled the files, but she also included something extra, a folder labeled Incheon Tower Original 2023 Daewha Architecture, placed to look like it had always been in his system, like he'd downloaded it years ago and forgotten. That night, Kang stayed late, frantically reviewing files. Jiwoo watched remotely through security cameras. She watched him find the folder, watched his face go from confusion to horror as he realized what he was looking at, undeniable evidence of his plagiarism sitting right there in his own system. But Kang didn't break down. He got strategic, picked up his phone, called CEO Lim. "Sir, we have a serious problem. I think someone's trying to sabotage us. Corporate espionage. Someone may have planted files in our system. We need to investigate for security breaches." Jiwoo smiled coldly. Kang was going to claim he was being framed. Smart, but not smart enough, because Jiwoo had already prepared for this exact move. She sent a single message to Yana. "He's claiming espionage. Release everything now." Within minutes, 3 emails went out from an anonymous account to Lee Se-yeon at Gina Architecture, to the government committee overseeing Incheon Tower, to an investigative journalist at Korea Herald. Each contained a complete timeline of director Kang Tae-jun's plagiarism. 5 years of stolen work, side-by-side comparisons, timestamps, metadata, irrefutable evidence. Subject line: Public Interest Disclosure, Hansang Architecture Fraud Investigation Required. By morning, the bomb would detonate. And Jiwoo? Jiwoo went home, took a shower, and slept better than she had in 3 years. The next morning, Jiwoo arrived at her usual 6 a.m., made coffee, opened her computer, went through the motions of being the perfect assistant. Kang arrived early, too, unusual for him, looking haggard. "There's going to be a security meeting at 9, CEO's orders. I'll prepare the conference room, Director." But at 7:48 a.m., Lee Se-yeon was reading an email that made his expression darken with fury. At 8:15 a.m., the government committee was in emergency session with lawyers. At 8:33 a.m., a Korea Herald journalist was making verification calls. The company-wide meeting began at 9 a.m., everyone in the main conference room, Kang at the front trying to look authoritative. CEO Lim began. "Director Kang has raised concerns about possible corporate espionage." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His face went white. Email from the government committee. "Urgent. Incheon Tower project under review. Contact immediately." "Excuse me, Director Kang, my office, now." They left. The room dissolved into confused whispers. Jiwoo sat in her corner, notepad open, the picture of professional composure. 15 minutes later, raised voices from the CEO's office. Anger, denial, more anger. At 10:30 a.m., the HR email. "Director Kang Tae-jun has been placed on immediate administrative leave pending investigation." By noon, Korea Herald published Hansang Architecture under investigation for plagiarism, $850 million contract in jeopardy. The article was devastating, thorough, professional. By 1 p.m., Lee Se-yeon issued a statement. Gina Architecture has terminated all partnership discussions with Hansang Architecture. By 4 p.m., security was packing Kang's office. Jiwoo watched it all from her desk, the empire collapsing, 3 years of planning executing perfectly. At 4:30 p.m., CEO Lim summoned her to his office. "I imagine you've heard about Director Kang," he said heavily. Yes, sir, the whole office has. We'll need your cooperation with the investigation. You worked most closely with him. Of course, sir, whatever you need. CEO Lim studied her carefully. I reviewed your file today. Seoul National University, architecture degree, top of your class, and you've been an assistant for 3 years. Yes, sir. We failed you. I failed you. I'd like to make it right. Immediately transfer you to the architecture department. 3 years ago, this would have meant everything. Thank you, sir. May I have time to consider? Of course, take the rest of the week. Ji-woo stood to leave. Ji-woo, the CEO's voice stopped her at the door. Before you go, I need to tell you something. She turned. CEO Lim looked at her with an expression that was hard to read. I know it was you. Ji-woo's face remained perfectly neutral. Sir, I don't know what you mean. The evidence compilation, the timing, the strategic release. He held up his hand. I'm not asking you to confirm it. I'm just telling you I know. Silence. Think about the offer, Ji-woo. That evening, her phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Han Ji-woo, this is Lee Se-yun from Gina Architecture. Yes, Mr. Lee. I received detailed information recently, information that saved Gina Architecture from a catastrophic mistake. The analysis was professional, thorough, the work of someone who truly understands architecture and integrity. Ji-woo listened. I researched Hansang's recent projects. Many of their best designs over the past 3 years share certain characteristics, a specific structural innovation approach, and when I reviewed documentation, one name kept appearing in background credits: yours. Ms. Han, I'd like to invite you to interview with Gina Architecture for a junior architect position, competitive salary. Ji-woo looked around her tiny apartment, made her decision. When would you like to meet? Tomorrow, 10 a.m.? I'll be there, Mr. Lee. Thank you. The next morning, Ji-woo dressed like the architect she was. Sharp blazer, confident heels, hair pulled back but softer. The Gina Architecture building was stunning, glass and steel defying gravity. The lobby showcased architectural models of museums, government buildings, landmarks. The interview went well. Lee So-jun asked about her design philosophy, technical expertise, vision for sustainable architecture. If you accept, you'd start in our Coastal Projects division. We're bidding on a development in Busan. Your skills would be valuable. Ji-woo looked out at Seoul spread before her. I accept. The next week, she delivered her resignation to CEO Lim. Ji-woo-shi, I thought you were considering our offer. I did consider it, sir, but I've accepted an opportunity that better aligns with my career goals. May I ask where? Gina Architecture. I start next week. CEO Lim's face showed rueful understanding. They're fortunate to have you. 2 weeks later, Ji-woo sat at her new desk at Gina Architecture, window overlooking the Han River. Nameplate, Han Ji-woo, Junior Architect. For the first time in 3 years, her designs had her name on them. Director Kang? Terminated. Blacklisted, facing potential legal action. The investigation had uncovered 5 years of plagiarism across multiple projects. 6 months later, Gina won the reopened Incheon Tower bid. The design was partially created by Han Ji-woo, featuring structural innovations that solved the exact seismic issues the plagiarized design had ignored. Her name was on it, officially. 1 year later, she was promoted to mid-level architect. Her work were being commissioned. Her work appeared in journals. She was exactly where she'd always planned to be. The best moment came at an industry conference in Seoul. Ji-woo was presenting a paper on sustainable coastal architecture to a packed auditorium. Standing in the back, trying to be inconspicuous, was Director Pang. He looked diminished, older, off-the-rack suit, harder face. He'd been reduced to selling commercial real estate to pay legal fees. Their eyes met. Jiwoo didn't flinch. After the panel, people approached her with questions, praise, business cards. She was gracious, engaged, professional. When the crowd cleared, Kang was waiting near the exit. "Jiwoo," he said. "Director Kang," she replied, still using his former title, polite, cold. "I know it was you. The investigation, the files, all of it." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me." Jiwoo tilted her head. "If you're accusing me, Director, perhaps contact your lawyer." Kang's face went red. "What you did was wrong, destroying my career." "I didn't destroy anything," Jiwoo said calmly. "You built your career on plagiarism and fraud. It destroyed itself." "You wanted revenge." Kang laughed bitterly. "And you got it. Job at Gina, your name on buildings, everything you wanted, while I'm selling apartments to pay legal fees." "You say that like I took something from you, but you never earned any of it. You stole designs, exploited people, risked public safety. Everything you lost, you never actually had it." "I'll get you back for this," Kang said, voice low and threatening. "Someday." Jiwoo actually laughed. "With what resources, Director? You're not rich enough to hire lawyers. You're not smart enough to outmaneuver me. We both know that now. So please, how exactly do you plan revenge?" Kang's face twisted with impotent rage. No answer. "That's what I thought," Jiwoo said. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have meetings with actual architects, people who earn their positions." She walked away without looking back. Later that evening, leaving the venue, she saw Park Min-ho near the parking garage. He'd been at the conference too. Their eyes met. Min-ho gave a small nod, just acknowledgement. Jiwoo nodded back. No words. Then Min-ho walked away, probably heading home to his son, and Jiwoo got into her car, heading to dinner with colleagues from Gina.